Hello, everyone. It is Felicia Bender, the Practical Numerologist. We are diving into the four personal year. All right. So, if you are here and you are unsure what the personal year is in numerology or what yours is, please look at the description box below. There'll be an explanation of that. I do not want to spend the time on that during this video. What this video is going to be is more of a succinct a description of the four personal year and the master number 22 for personal year, because depending on your birth date and the math, you can have a 4 or a 22 for potential there. So toward the end of the video, I'll talk about what the 22 brings to the party if it's your 4 or 22 for personal year. So let's get at it. Let's get to the nuts and bolts of the four personal year. And nuts and bolts is a really good way of looking at it, because the four personal year is a hard working year. After last year, which was more social, more creative, more expressive, this year it just comes in a little bit more serious. It just feels weightier. It feels like there's a little more at stake. It feels as though you really need to stop for a minute and take a look, either metaphorically or literally. Time to put that life's business plan out on the table and to see if it's still I don't know, if it's still the plan that you want to engage in, or if you want to clean slate it, or just maybe you want to do a major revision, that sort of thing. It's getting it out on the table and looking at your longer range goals. So the question here, I do like to think of each of the personal years in terms of what question are you asking yourself, and what question actually is the universe asking you to pay attention to or to answer during each personal year. So, and then I like to look at the themes like that we're dealing with, because numerology just isn't chatter, right? It's not just talking. It is actually energy. It is there. We're feeling it usually, and whether we know it or not. And so it's really wonderful to be able to put a framework around what energy is actually supporting you. How can you use that optimally to be happier, to be more successful? And then how can you know what the caveats are going to be, what the obstacles might be, where the sticking points might be, so that you could really understand and make more meaning out of that as well. That's the only reason I do this. So I hope I hope it's why you are seeking out this information, to use it and to make your life better and more successful. So, with that said, the key themes for the four personal year, it's more serious. It's hard work. There are limiting circumstances. The four is all about limitations, and yet those limitations are placed in our pathway in order for us to be tenacious, to have the diligence to follow some step by step processes to obtain a goal that is not just fly by night. It's not just disposable, right? The four personal year is asking you where you want your foundations to be, how you feel anchored, rooted, grounded. All of those key themes are coming into play in every aspect of your life. So, again, what are my longer range goals and how can I implement those? And the goal here during the entire year is to get organized and to set those firm foundations that will ultimately make your life easier, more satisfying, and more productive down the line, right? It's like doing all the prep work so that everything goes smoothly. That's what the four personal year is all about. So it is slow and steady wins the race this year, and it's a year to define goals and to set up systems. So if we look at the two kind of categories that I've got here in the infographic, we've got the bring it on the bring it on category, which we all know and love. And then we've got the other category, which is what can I expect that might challenge me, right? We're always going to have the oppositional pull. We're always going to have some challenges that come into play that we can use to our advantage when we know what they are. Okay. So in the bring it on category, it is all about bringing in as much pragmatism, practicality, realism as you can. It's about putting in the effort. It's not, fly by night, easy breezy, little cheesy, just everything's going to come knocking at my door. Doesn't happen during a 4 personal year. It's about effort and it's about diligence and following up on the follow up, if you want to put it that way. It's about management, it's about finances. Often we are looking at our financial life during a 4 personal year, amongst other things, but the financial life can be a key feature. And again, foundations. So this can be all about foundations in our life on different strata. So, foundations in terms of your health. The 4 in numerology is the number of health. Okay. It's not the number of bad health. So don't freak out, okay? It is the number of health. So during a 4 personal year, the tendency is to overwork, is to do too much, and then to maybe suffer the consequences because of too much stress, because of eating, not eating well, not exercising, right? Not doing the things to keep the mind, body, and spirit in alignment. So you really are being asked to, during a 4 personal year in particular, to put yourself on your calendar in terms of self-care. Okay. Truly. I'm not kidding. Please do that. Okay. It ultimately is super productive. It is one of those years where I often find if you're a creative and utilize the energy of your 3 personal year last year really well, it is your time for implementation. It's a time where the book is that you wrote is being published or edited or marketed or something like that. It's a time where your album is getting out there. Maybe the screenplay is going through its last revision and going to be sold. Maybe it can be all kinds of creative endeavors that can happen in a 3 personal year that can find their way to implementation during a 4. Okay. Also, this is a very persevering year. You have to stick with it. You can't just when you hit a little roadblock, when you hit a no, when you hit a limitation, you can't just oh, all right, and throw your hands up. You've got to figure out another way to get there. So it's about staying the course and also being a bit flexible about how to get there. Ultimately, can be a year of amazing gratification, satisfying results that you can feel in your life. It's a focusing on your sense of security, on your sense of stability. So if that's something that's kind of been floundering, this will be a key feature that can happen in terms of your relationship life. It could be healing trauma, healing issues that go way back in terms of your sense of stability and security overarchingly in your life. And it can be all the way to building a house, building a new house, I was going to say, or another house, something of that nature. Moving. It could be a geographical move. It could be starting a family. Really anything having to do with your concept of security, stability, foundations, rooting, anchoring. Again, healing family issues tends to pop up quite a bit during a 4, and a focus on health and self-care and really taking care of yourself. So what you can expect here is sometimes just the opposite, right? When a number shows up, we're always going to be dealing with either the overactive or underactive elements. So on the underactive, you could be totally unfocused, totally impulsive. You just can't, follow through with anything to save your soul. So, and yet there can also be this disorganized energy that takes a hold of you. It can be where you have limited viewpoints, where you're like, I've always done it this way. I won't tell you that it's never ever worked, but I'm still going to do it this way. And I'm going to be really pissy that it doesn't work again, right? It can be really unwinding from that sort of pervasive attitude that most of us have, right? Most of us do the things we do the way we do them. And to get ourselves into uh, different perspectives, different solutions, different points of view is what it's a challenge for most of us human beings. So in this year of the four, that is when you'll be offered up some opportunities to either just drive in the same rut in the road or really open yourself up to new possibilities and to be able to be open to different viewpoints, different belief systems, different ways of doing things. There can be a sense of carelessness here. It's all about, the four is all about ultimately responsibility, following through, honest, tried and true, all of those energies, all of those words. And so again, you could be working with just the opposite. It can be an over focus on details. There can be impracticality. There can be apathy, stubbornness, and at the end of the day, really burnout. That is what I often see most often in a four personal year is an inability to balance all the work that you feel needs to be done and that actually does need to be done. So it's about prioritizing, and it's about not becoming that work martyr. It's about accepting help. It's about, again, not feeling like, well, I mean, the only person who can do it is me. And that's, I mean, does anyone understand all the things that I have to do and all the da 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 da, right? Again, we're all guilty of that on some level. In the four personal year, it's really asking you to, yes, step up, take responsibility, do the things, do the work, stay a little bit late at the office, prioritize those things, and yet also to harmonize that aspect, to balance it. And now what happens if you are in a master number 22/4 personal year? So those of you who might be new to numerology, there are master numbers in numerology. Those are the repeating numbers. That would be the 11, the double one. So, and we can sometimes talk about it as simply 11 or 11/2. As you see on this visual here, it's also the 22/4. There's the 33, 6, and so on in numerology that we could talk about. The 11 and the 22 are the ones I will talk about in terms of the personal year, what they also bring to the table in terms of the energies related to your personal year. Because let's just say that it becomes a little bit wonky, right? The master numbers are kind of innately, I don't know, in conflict with themselves. The beauty of it is when we can understand how to work optimally with it, it is incredibly powerful, incredibly expansive, almost magical in that way. And yet, having an understanding about how to go about it is why we're here, why you and I are talking, right? So the 22, I would say, what I would ask you to do is look at the number two, the video on the number two personal year, and just kind of, listen to that in the background and think about it, and kind of double that energy. Again, the two is about patience, love, other people, all the things that the two is about in terms of the personal year. Double it up. And yet you're really, the foundational energy here is the foundational energy of the four. So you've got the double two kind of in this container of the four, and then the master energy just brings a whole new level to it. So what does that mean for you? If you are in a 22/4 personal year, it means it's hard work, longer range goals, with the addition of spiritual focus and advancement. So when the 22 shows up, it is really a door opening for major leaps and bounds in your. When the 22 shows up like it does here, it's about um, the spiritual pathway to your material success. Okay. So it's more about an infusion of spiritual principles, of spiritual thought and action, of just a higher level of evolution. So I don't want you to come and walk away saying, well, I'm not going to become a healer, or I'm not going to, I'm not a psychic, or whatever that is. That's not what I mean. I mean that you're really going to, from the inside out, want to infuse more meaning. Let's just put it that way. More meaning. What does it mean to you personally? Is it just making money, going to the job, the grind? Or is this the year where you're going to infuse some sense of purpose, some sense of what lights you up, what brings you that ultimate passion around, this is my purpose, right? This is why I'm here. So those are things that can be coming into your I don't know, into the nomenclature as you work with the 22 for personal year. So the question is, what am I building and creating that has long range potential and is reflective of my spiritual mission? So again, 2 parts 2 and 1 part 4. So it's still going to be a time where you define goals, set up those systems, time to take your dreams to a bigger platform, right? Or even allow yourself to think bigger. So it's still about the practicality, the effort, and yet with the topping it off of thinking bigger, like what would the ultimate be? And what would it take to get there, and to be real and pragmatic, but shoot for the stars this year. Again, finances can come into the picture, and it's about vision. It's about the bigger vision. It's about the more encompassing vision. It can be super productive, yet exhausting, right? It's about the endurance. So, again, if you're training to be an athlete, if you, for instance, as a metaphor, and you're training to be a marathon runner, if you're doing, the Ironman, if you're doing the endurance races, there's certain training that you must do. And you've got to come up with, again, metaphorically speaking, what is your training routine, right? And how do you institute this aspect into your life? These sorts of healthy, dynamic routines that are going to get you where you want to go. So this is all about long-term results. Once again, focus on security and stability with family focus, because it's the double two. Again, emotions, us, family, relationships. And it's a double dose of healing around family relationships with that focus on health as well. So you can expect also maybe a feeling of overwhelm mixed with that impulsivity. Again, the anti four, and yet it always shows up when the four energy is at play. You can just feel really tired and really spent, and a little bit doubtful and a little restricted, right? Just kind of like you keep, like, I don't know, just banging your head against the wall, and that other people, why is it so easy for that person over there? Why are they, I've been trying to do the same thing for months and they just, do it in 2 hours. It's that sort of feeling. And yet you've got to stay the course. Okay. There can be some fear that comes in with it. And again, that stubbornness of the four. The four's stubbornness is about, my way or the highway, or I know the way to do it, or it can only be done this way. And you're being asked to open up to other possibilities that might, gasp, make your life better, easier. When the four shows up, the idea of something being simple or easy becomes kind of laughable. It's kind of like, ha, right. That kind of sarcastic eye roll that can go with that something can be easy. And yet it's training you during a 4 personal year to stay the course, to set out those goals, and to go after them step by step by step. Because when you get everything in place by the end of the year, you will have a solid foundation from which to move into your 5 personal year, which will be where you're investigating your levels of freedom.